Will we ever see Jon Jones versus Alex? Yeah.
Possibility. I mean, Rogan is pushing me right now to try to make that fight. It's just, guys, Jon Jones is a whole nother. I consider Jon Jones the greatest combat fighter of all time. Jon Jones is the nastiest dude ever in the history. And Jon's got a dark side to him, man. He shoots guns. Jon Jones is a killer.
The big money fight is Alex and Jon Jones at the White House.
Yeah.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah.
Catch weight. Make it 225. You don't have to be for a title. Make it the bad month upper edition. You know, you have the BMF belt for 155ers. Who's the real BMF?
Yeah.
You know, do you think one of those guys could beat Alex Pereira? You think you get a 155 pounder in there against Alex Pereira? Does Max Holloway survive against Alex Pereira? No, shut the fuck up. Jon Jones, Alex Pereira fight will probably be the biggest fight in human history. You got the greatest of all time in Jon Jones, and arguably the most destructive striker that's ever competed.
Yeah.
No one's like that guy.
All
the time.
Why not fight against Pereira, a guy who's the same age as you, and we walk around the same exact size? Right now, I had to eat a big breakfast because I'm getting underneath like 235. Pereira walks around at like 240, and he has magnificent accolades. Business-wise, it makes more sense. I'm gonna call him this, fight the nobody that may be more dangerous, or fight the guy with all the accolades who's incredibly dangerous, but it actually will affect your legacy. Where when you look back and it's like, Jon just beat Alex Pereira, it's bigger. It's just much bigger. And anybody who can't understand that logic simply doesn't want to.
All right, Sunday morning, leaving Las Vegas. Freedom 250 was announced last night at the White House, going down in June. So we're going to talk about this. I honestly thought we were going to see Jon Jones versus Alex Pereira, more than likely in the main event. Of course, that's not the main event. That is Justin Gaethje taking on Ilia Topuria for the undisputed lightweight championship of the world, which is a great fight, which is the fight that should happen because obviously meritocracy, and they've got an interim champion. There was people saying that maybe Charles Oliveira or...
When the Freedom 250 card got announced from the White House, the energy was through the roof. But man, right from that first moment, all of us were sitting there with the exact same thought burning in our minds. Where on earth is Jon Jones taking on Alex Pereira?
Stopped Max Holloway, didn't put him to sleep per se, but certainly a TKO. So that wouldn't have made sense anyway. Now, I did think Jon Jones, the greatest of all time, according to a lot of people, and yeah, probably is. Obviously, many asterisks to his name. I thought he'd be fighting Alex Pereira because Alex Pereira vacated the belt. Yuri versus Carlos Ulberg is going down in Miami. That's a great fight. I'm very happy for Yuri Prochazka and for Carlos Ulberg.
The person breaking this down nails that immediate gut punch we all felt seeing the lineup. Look, fans weren't just hoping for this clash between two absolute legends who represent different eras of greatness. This wasn't some wishful thinking either, especially after Pereira made that jaw-dropping jump to heavyweight that had the whole community buzzing.
He is fighting for the interim strap against Alex Pereira, which is very impressive because Alex Pereira will be the first person to ever compete for 3 different titles, 3 different weight classes, which is just... it is insane. I mean, the success that this guy's had is phenomenal. And we're going to talk about this matchup. So Cyril Gane versus Gane, pardon me. Cyril Gane versus, I've got to adjust my contact lens because sometimes everything goes a bit blurry and I can't see shit. There we go. Yeah, so Cyril Gane versus Alex Pereira, 2 great strikers. And I'll say this, it's a better fight than Jon Jones versus Alex Pereira.
When you've got the White House as your backdrop, that screams the biggest spectacle possible. So having Jones, the guy who sits on the heavyweight throne, completely missing from this massive patriotic showcase alongside someone like Pereira who could become a triple champion, that stung. We're talking real disappointment here.
And I'll explain why, right? Of course, magnitude, star power, legendary names, resumes. Yeah, that's what Jon Jones brings. Also what Alex Pereira brings, to be fair. But I've said this a million times, so this won't be a shock. There would have been a really good chance that Jon Jones would have just taken down Alex Pereira. Pardon me, it's early. I've only had a few hours sleep. But yeah, Jones would have probably taken down Pereira. Wouldn't have been easy, right? Magomed Ankalaev has tried to do that. Other people have tried to do that. Jan Blachowicz tried to do that. But this is Jon Jones we're talking about. Look at what...
This whole situation, what some folks are calling a deliberate choice to keep it off the card, explains exactly why Dana White is getting roasted by fans right now. Sure, the lightweight title fight they did book is absolutely incredible stuff, but man, it's tough to shake off that dream matchup that everyone's been craving that just isn't there on this huge platform.
Even Tom Aspinall couldn't take down Cyril Gane, but Jon could, right? So that's just something to think about. Jon would have probably taken Pereira down and finished him by a ground and pound, you know, choked him out, whatever, and it could have been a quick performance. Now, the matchup we have now for the interim heavyweight strap, Pereira versus Cyril Gane, this is completely different.
The respect for Jones as the undisputed greatest ever and all the anticipation around him potentially battling Pereira is exactly why fans feel so let down right now.
It's going to be a kickboxing match in 4-ounce gloves. And then when you look at the matchup, on one side you've got Pereira, who's got insane power, who was the middleweight champion, the light heavyweight champion, and now potentially heavyweight champion. Again, legendary stuff. The power will travel. He had knockout power at 185, 205 he will, and at heavyweight, he's still going to pack the same amount of punch. Granted, you're fighting bigger people, you're striking bigger people with bigger necks and bigger jaws, and just generally heavy, so they'll be able to absorb the blows better. But he's still going to crack a punch, man. Simple as...
Here's what made this feel so perfect. Pereira had just given up his light heavyweight crown to make this bold leap to heavyweight, and honestly, everything in the universe seemed lined up for what would have been a legendary super fight.
Or quite as slick as Cyril Gane, although I'm not saying he's not slick, I'm not saying he's not smooth, I'm not saying he hasn't got great combinations, because he does. He's a brilliant world-class kickboxer. But on the other side, you've got Cyril Gane, who's very, very light on the feet, very bouncy, very floaty. He kind of glides around the octagon, and extremely fast for the heavyweight division. I don't think either guy is going to go for a takedown. If it does go down to the ground, it'll be after one of them gets knocked down. Shut up with the announcements, please. I'm trying to do a YouTube video like an absolute bellend walking through an airport and everyone's looking. It's full of UFC fans because UFC 326 was last night.
Watching that golden moment slip away, especially for something as prestigious as a White House event, feels like we just witnessed combat sports history pass us by, something that might never come around again.
Anyway, yeah, if it goes to the ground, it's because one of them knocks each other down and then they go to finish it. So this is going to be a fantastic striking affair in the co-main event at the White House, Freedom 250, right? So give me your thoughts on that one. Who do you think wins this fight? It seems like I'm always going against Alex Pereira, but I kind of think it might be Cyril Gane. I think Cyril Gane might get it, right? But regardless, whether it's Cyril or it's Alex, whoever wins this will be the interim heavyweight champion of the world. And this is a crazy situation for Tom Aspinall because...
While there are definitely other incredible battles on this card, and that's absolutely true, the Jones versus Pereira situation was something genuinely special. We're looking at a potential showdown between a two-division legend and someone who could make history across 3 weight classes in ways we rarely witness.
He was the interim champion and couldn't get a shot at the undisputed. Hello, she's looking at me with a smirk. Couldn't get a shot at the undisputed with Jon Jones because he wasn't playing games. He had a fight booked against Stipe Miocic, but then Jones certainly was playing games. You know, after the Curtis Blades matchup, we didn't know what he was doing. Now we don't know what's happening with Tom, right? I assume their eyes are going to be good to go very, very soon, right? Otherwise, Eddie Hearn isn't going to sign a fighter that can't fight, right? So I'm assuming any day now they're going to come out, start negotiating with the UFC and say, listen, he's good to go, he's fine, he's healed, he's ready, he wants to get back in.
This is exactly the type of once-in-a-generation booking that the UFC has built its entire reputation on delivering, and having it nowhere to be found here absolutely drives home why fans are feeling so frustrated with the people putting these cards together.
And I thought a rematch with Cyril Gane would have been the immediate matchup, but if he beats Alex Pereira, it certainly will be the immediate matchup. But this time it'll be for an interim belt versus an undisputed belt, which makes the fight even bigger. As I said on another video the other day, it all depends on these contractual negotiations. Eddie Hearn came out and was kind of shitting on Tom's contract and saying that he doesn't get paid what he should get paid. If Eddie's going to try and change that contract, and you know, that is what a good manager does, to be fair, and you want the best management team on your side. You certainly don't want an amateur, you don't want a chump, you don't want someone that doesn't know what they're doing. But if he tries to push the goalposts far too far...
This part really shows what might be the bright side, or maybe the calculated gamble that Dana White and his team actually decided to make.
UFC aren't going to agree to that, and there might be some kind of stalling, and we might have Tom Aspinall sitting on the sidelines for a while. I hope that doesn't happen, and I hope if he is able to renegotiate, I hope he gets a killer deal, because he deserves it, right? Tom's a freak in nature, he's an incredible athlete. But he's got to come back, and it looks like he's going to be fighting Alex Pereira or Cyril Gane.
And should he win the fight, then we figure out what's going on with Tom Aspinall, and it could be him versus Aspinall.
Now, other fights on the card. Steve Garcia versus Diego Lopez. I forgot to mention that one on my 326 preview yesterday. That's an insane fight. Of course, Diego Lopez.
While fans everywhere were practically demanding Jones versus Pereira, and trust me, that hunger was absolutely real. The truth is that Alex Pereira going for a third division title against Cyril Gane represents something we've literally never seen before.
Knocked out Jean Silva, and what else did he do? Oh, I mean, listen, he's just must-see TV. And then on the other side, Steve Garcia hasn't got the same kind of brand value as Diego Lopez, but holy shit, man, he's on, I think, an 8-fight win streak, and they're all stoppages, most of them in the first round. I think one of them got to the second round, and you gotta love Steve Garcia. He is a nasty guy. So that'll be the first fight on the card. I didn't see this one coming. Bo Nickel versus Kyle Dorcas. I didn't expect that one, but it'll be a good fight. Dorcas, he's on a 2-fight win streak. Bo Nickel, of course, represents...
Just think about that for a second. 3 separate divisions. That's a genuine showcase of Pereira's incredible evolution through combat sports and his absolutely elite abilities.
Michael Chandler. How about this for Michael Chandler? Fair play, right? Obviously, there was talk of Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler competing on that card. Dana said, nah, we ain't interested in that anymore. But it turns out it was the Conor McGregor side. Now, Conor came out and he was doing an interview with Chael Sonnen, and he brought up some good points. He said, listen, it's going to be a sellout with my name involved regardless. It's going to do blockbuster numbers.
You know, like a double sale thing. That's the White House is going to hit no matter what.
And he's absolutely right. When Conor comes back, it's going to be insane, right? And that's just the facts of the matter. So they don't need to put him on the White House card. And he said, they don't put me on 300.
The breakdown here even argues that it's actually superior for pure striking spectacle, and that's a pretty solid counter to all the criticism about what got left out. It hints that while the fight everyone craved isn't happening, what we're getting instead might actually be a more thrilling and explosive alternative that could steal the show.
Retired, that'll be it. We'll never see him again. If it is, it's kind of an unceremonious way to go out. I remember when I retired, I wasn't happy with the way that it ended because I wanted to retire in the octagon after a fight, win or lose. I wanted to thank the crowd. That's why I was going to take one more fight. I was actually in negotiations to fight Rashad Evans at the O2 Arena in London because I romanticized this idea of thanking the crowd and all this type of stuff and putting the gloves down and going through that whole thing. And my manager, Audie Atara, was like, Mike, you're romanticizing this in your mind for this big moment, but what you're doing is you're putting your vision.
And honestly, that could be exactly what Dana White had in mind for such a massive globally watched event like this White House showcase.
Risk, because obviously I had one eye and I was starting to have problems with the one eye. That's why I've got to adjust my contact lenses because I'm going bloody blind. And he was absolutely right. And for Jon Jones to go out like this after all these negotiations, these back and forths, and just kind of embroiled in what he is, like, it is a bit of a shame. Also a shame that apparently he needs hip surgery. He was talking about, you know, being riddled with arthritis, got caught on camera. Dana mentioned that again at the press conference.
Is it fair to say then Jon Jones is retired and this is the end of his time?
The detailed explanation of why Gane versus Pereira could actually deliver more excitement than Jones versus Pereira, at least in terms of pure entertainment, is something we really need to think about. Look, it's not about star power or drawing ability, which Jon Jones absolutely has in spades. The guy is box office gold. But when you break down the fighting styles, how these skills clash in the octagon, a wrestling-focused performance from Jones, while probably successful since that's his bread and butter, might not create the same explosive moments that fans really want for a high-profile spectacle like this White House card. This way of looking at things tries to make sense of Dana White's choice from a completely different perspective. It suggests that leaving out Jones versus Pereira wasn't some random mistake or oversight, but actually a deliberate strategic decision aimed at delivering maximum thrills for the biggest possible audience. It totally changes how we view this disappointment, proposing that what we lost in pure celebrity power, we actually got back in guaranteed non-stop action and striking wars, which might actually satisfy at least some of those frustrated fans out there. The breakdown really emphasizes Jones's complete wrestling control and the very realistic chance of him taking Pereira down fast and efficiently, because that's simply what Jones does best. Using that perfect example of how Jones dominated Cyril Gane, and here's the crazy part, a fighter that even the dangerous Tom Aspinall couldn't fully control or put away. This specific comparison creates a vivid picture of what a potential Jones-Pereira battle might actually look like when it's happening, possibly ending quickly, maybe even in round 1 on the mat with Jones in complete control, potentially stealing away that epic striking war we'd all been dreaming about and building up in our heads. Meanwhile, the Gane versus Pereira interim championship bout gets presented as a guaranteed kickboxing showcase. But here's what makes it insane, with 4-ounce gloves that make every single strike more dangerous. This comparison reinforces the idea that the UFC and Dana White himself made a conscious decision to go with a fight that guarantees sustained striking excellence over what might have been a one-sided grappling showcase that ends fast, even if that choice meant excluding the more hyped battle that had everyone talking. This breakdown gives us brilliant insight into Alex Pereira's absolutely devastating punching power and how that incredible power works across different weight divisions, which is actually pretty rare. The focus on his striking skills, his technical ability to hurt opponents is crucial for understanding why the Gane versus Pereira booking is so appealing to both hardcore followers and casual watchers. And maybe it shows exactly why Dana White picked this specific battle for the White House card instead of other options. Pereira's proven ability to land that fight-ending shot at heavyweight even though he's facing much bigger, naturally heavier guys who can absorb more punishment guarantees a high-stakes explosive striking battle that could end any second. This strategic emphasis on guaranteed action and entertainment, instead of booking a potentially more tactical but honestly less crowd-friendly grappling match that might not create those highlight reel moments, actually makes pretty solid sense for the UFC's booking philosophy and indirectly responds to the criticism for not including the Jones fight. When you really analyze it, it's about creating a spectacle, building a moment, and Pereira's power mixed with Gane's skills absolutely makes that happen. The different fighting approaches between these two get broken down even more here, really showcasing Cyril Gane's rare agility and quickness for someone competing at heavyweight, where fighters are typically much slower. This thorough analysis strengthens the case that Gane versus Pereira is a genuinely captivating stylistic battle that fans should get excited about. Both guys are elite strikers at the absolute highest level, no question there. But here's what makes it compelling. They're elite in totally different ways, using different methods and techniques, which sets up a dynamic and genuinely unpredictable stand-up war that's impossible to predict. For a card at the White House, specifically designed to be a massive spectacle showcasing American combat sports, a pure kickboxing chess match like this is probably more accessible and frankly more thrilling for a wide audience, including people who might not follow mixed martial arts religiously, than watching a potential grappling clinic where one fighter controls the other on the canvas. This careful focus on stylistic matchups, really considering how these fighters complement each other, shows why the UFC might strategically choose this specific pairing, effectively deciding against booking the Jones versus Pereira fight in favor of what they truly believe is a better entertainment package that will create more unforgettable moments, hoping to reduce that fan criticism and backlash. Things have gotten completely mixed up. The analysis wraps up the detailed Gane versus Pereira breakdown with a confident prediction, and then immediately jumps to discussing the absolutely complicated mess for Tom Aspinall, which creates its own storyline. This shift really shows the complex web of events and choices in the heavyweight scene that directly created the Gain Pereira interim title fight in the first place. Aspinall's frustrating position as an interim champion, someone who earned a belt but couldn't get a real shot at the undisputed title to unify everything, directly results from previous UFC decisions and fighter scheduling issues, including Jon Jones' choices and availability. This ongoing chain reaction in the heavyweight division makes the story we're exploring here even more complicated. It shows pretty clearly that while fans might want to point fingers at Dana White directly for excluding Jones versus Pereira for not making that battle happen, the actual situation is usually way more complex. It's a mix of injuries that mess up plans, fighter availability and willingness to compete, and strategic booking decisions that have to consider multiple moving parts. It's rarely just a simple mistake or someone dropping the ball. This segment provides essential background that we really need to grasp. Tom Aspinall, who earned interim champion status, was previously turned down completely for an undisputed title opportunity, and this was directly connected to Jon Jones messing around with negotiations and his stubborn insistence on fighting Stipe Miocic instead, which he wouldn't budge on. This track record adds real depth to what we're looking at now. If Jones was playing games before, stretching things out, it makes his current absence from this White House card and the resulting exclusion of a potential Pereira fight feel less like a deliberate UFC slight or Dana White having some hidden agenda and more like a continuation of Jones's own career choices and how he's handled his business. It suggests pretty clearly that Dana White might actually be trying to work within a complicated fighter environment with challenging personalities and situations, and that all the criticism being aimed at him for not having Jones fight Pereira on this card might actually be pointed at the wrong target, considering Jones's track record and his current circumstances. The conversation about Eddie Hearn's involvement and potential contract issues surrounding Tom Aspinall really reveals how this business actually operates. It pulls back the curtain on the business aspects of mixed martial arts that fans don't always get to see, showing that fighter availability isn't just about health or willingness to step into the cage and compete, but also heavily involves complicated negotiations and payment demands that fighters and their teams are pushing for. This directly connects to the broader exclusion theme we've been diving into. Sometimes a fight doesn't get made, not because Dana White dislikes a particular matchup or doesn't recognize its potential, but because of incredibly complex financial and contractual demands happening behind closed doors during negotiations. If Aspinall's management is pushing too aggressively, asking for too much, or creating difficulties, it can effectively bench a top talent, keeping them away from major fights. Similar to how Jones's own contract situations and negotiations have, at different points in his career, kept him away from competition, accidentally contributing to situations like the exclusion of a Jones-Pereira fight that fans desperately wanted to witness. The possibility of serious delays, of everything grinding to a complete stop because of contract disputes, as shown here, is a tough, sometimes maddening reality in elite-level professional sports. It really drives home that even the most skilled, talented fighters like Tom Aspinall, guys who are obviously elite level, can get benched for reasons that have nothing to do with their octagon performance or fighting skills. This is a crucial point when we're thinking about the exclusion of Jon Jones versus Alex Pereira from this card. It suggests pretty convincingly that these high-profile super fights everyone craves are incredibly challenging to actually organize and execute, requiring delicate negotiations that can easily postpone or even completely kill fights from happening at all. The conversation then moves to highlighting other exciting battles on the card, clearly showing that despite all these behind-the-scenes challenges and complications, the UFC still manages to put together a stacked quality event with plenty of great matchups, even if the absolute dream fight everyone wanted isn't happening right now. The genuine excitement for battles like Diego Lopez versus Steve Garcia and Bontorin versus Kyle Daukaus really demonstrates the depth and quality of the Freedom 250 card beyond just the headlining events that grab all the headlines. This creates an important alternative perspective to the notion that Dana White deserves criticism for excluding one fight, even a massive one. While Jones versus Pereira would have been absolutely huge, a massive attraction, the UFC has still managed to load this card with incredibly exciting, meaningful matchups from top to bottom that guarantee action. The focus on up-and-coming stars and fan-favorite brawlers who consistently deliver shows the organization's dedication to providing entertainment at every single level of the card, not just the main events. It proves that even without that one specific super fight everyone wanted, the event still stands as an absolute must-see for dedicated fans and casual viewers alike. The conversation around Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler not competing on this specific card, and McGregor's own logic for why it makes perfect sense, adds another interesting layer to this whole exclusion story we're examining. McGregor himself makes what seems like a solid, difficult to dispute argument about his special position. His star power, his ability to generate attention is so massive, so unmatched, that he doesn't actually need a particular card like the White House event to guarantee success. He can headline basically any card, any event, and instantly transform it into a blockbuster that breaks records. This clearly shows that some exclusions, some decisions not to book certain fighters aren't signs of disrespect or rejection, but rather strategic choices based on a fighter's special appeal and marketability. It suggests that Dana White, rather than avoiding big matchups or disliking them, is simply strategically using his biggest draws where they can create maximum impact across multiple events, instead of putting all of them together on one single already massively promoted event like this one. This hits as an emotional look at Jon Jones's potential retirement and the somewhat underwhelming way it could end, connecting it to personal experience with how these situations can unfold. The emotional impact of a fighter, especially a legend, not getting a proper send-off inside the octagon where they built their reputation is really powerful. You can sense it. For Jones, a legend with incredible star power and an amazing legacy, to simply disappear amid health problems and contract negotiations rather than going out with a bang in a grand final battle like a Superfight against Pereira would be, represents a genuine loss for the sport and his place in mixed martial arts history. This viewpoint moves the blame for the exclusion away from Dana White and onto the harsh realities of a fighter's body wearing down and the difficulties of negotiating a final chapter in an incredible career. It brings empathy and understanding to Jones's absence from such an important event. The disclosure of Jon Jones' serious health problems, we're talking hip surgery and arthritis, ongoing conditions, becomes the real explanation for his absence from the White House card, and therefore the exclusion of a battle with Alex Pereira that everyone craved. This information, backed up and confirmed by Dana White himself, completely transforms the story, changes everything. It's no longer about a strategic snub or contract disputes or politics, but about a fighter's physical health and well-being. While fans might feel disappointed, and that's totally reasonable, truly grasping the seriousness of his condition, what he's physically dealing with, creates a clear understanding of why a fight with Pereira, or any fight at this moment, isn't possible. This completely destroys the Dana White hatred premise that's been circulating by giving a very human, completely undeniable reason for the most significant exclusion on this card.